China just moved more than 100 vessels into regional waters. Not one, not 10, more than 100. That happened after the Trump-XC meeting. The meeting that was supposed to lower the temperature, the meeting that many hoped would lead to a ceasefire on trade, a pause on military posturing, maybe even a step back from the brink. Instead, within days, 100 Chinese vessels fanned out across the region, and one country is watching all of this more closely than almost any other. Not Japan, not South Korea, the Philippines. Because if the worst happens, if China and Taiwan go from tension to open conflict, the Philippines does not sit safely on the sidelines. It sits on the front line. That is not speculation, that is geography. Let us be precise about what we know. According to reports, China deployed more than 100 vessels across regional waters following the Trump-XC meeting. The timing matters. A high-level summit between two superpowers is typically a moment O. F, diplomatic signaling. You show restraint, you pull back, you give the other side something to take home. A 100-vessel deployment does the opposite. It is a statement. It says, we are here, we are not moving, and we are not waiting. Now, the immediate context is the Taiwan Strait. That remains the most dangerous flashpoint in the Indo-Pacific. China has never renounced the use of force to reunify with Taiwan. The United States has long maintained a policy of strategic ambiguity. It does not formally commit to defending Taiwan, but it does not abandon it either. That ambiguity has kept an uneasy peace for decades, but uneasy is doing a lot of work in that sentence. What a 100-vessel deployment tells you is that China is not content to let ambiguity hold the line forever. Now widen the map. Look south. Look at the archipelago sitting at the edge of the South China Sea, the Philippines. Specifically, look at the northern island of Luzon. In any Taiwan conflict scenario, Luzon becomes one of the most strategically significant pieces of land on the planet. Not because of its size, because of its location. Luzon sits directly south of Taiwan. If the United States commits to defending Taiwan or supporting its resistance, American forces will almost certainly need to operate from somewhere close. That somewhere, according to strategic analysts, is likely the Philippines. Specifically, the bases covered under EDCA, the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement between Manila and Washington. EDCA is not new. It was negotiated under the Obama administration, expanded under subsequent administrations, and gives the United States access to agreed locations inside Philippine military installations. It does not make the Philippines a formal staging ground, but in a conflict scenario, the line between access and operational use becomes very thin, very fast. That is the reality Manila is sitting with. Here is where the stakes become human. The Philippines is a natio, and of over 100 million people, it is a young democracy with deep historical ties to the United States and increasingly complicated ties to China. Filipino fishermen operate in the South China Sea under regular pressure from Chinese Coast Guard vessels. The West Philippine Sea dispute is not abstract for Manila. It is daily life for communities whose livelihoods depend on access to those waters. But a Taiwan conflict is a different order of magnitude entirely. We are not talking about water cannons on fishing boats. We are talking about the potential for the Philippines to become an active theater, or at the very least, a target in a major power confrontation. Is Manila ready for that scenario? That is the question defense analysts are now asking openly. The Philippine military has been modernizing. The Marcos administration has leaned closer to Washington than his predecessor did. New EDCA sites have been opened. American and Filipino forces have been running more joint exercise, ICES. All of that signals a direction. But signals and readiness are two different things. There is a counterpoint worth taking seriously. Not everyone believes that a Taiwan conflict automatically pulls the Philippines in. Some analysts argue that Manila would face immense domestic pressure to stay neutral. The Philippine Constitution contains provisions that restrict the country from being used as a base for offensive military operations by foreign powers. The legal and political picture is genuinely complicated. And public opinion in the Philippines is not uniformly hawkish. Many Filipinos would rather see their country stay out of great power confrontations entirely. China, for its part, has consistently framed its military activities in the region as defensive. The vessel deployment, according to Beijing's standard posture, would likely be described as a routine exercise of sovereignty and regional presence. That framing is contested, but it is the framing Beijing uses, and ICAR, Ri's weight with parts of the international community, What is harder to contest is the trajectory. The number of vessels in regional waters has not been going down. The frequency of Chinese military exercises near Taiwan has not been decreasing. The pressure on Philippine-administered waters has not been easing. Whatever framing is applied, the direction of travel is clear. So where does this leave us? In the near term, the focus will be on what follows the Trump-Xi meeting. Was the 100-vessel deployment a one-time signal, a negotiating posture, or the opening move in a longer escalation? That will become clearer in the coming weeks. Diplomatic back channels are almost certainly active. Back channels always are at moments like this, but back channels operate in private. Vessel deployments operate in public, and right now, the public signal is the one that matters most. For the Philippines, the strategic calculus is intensifying. Manila cannot afford to be caught without a posse, but every position carries risk. Moving closer to Washington risks provoking Beijing, which is the Philippines' largest trading partner. Moving closer to Beijing risks undermining the alliance architecture that provides the Philippines with its primary security guarantee. There is no cost-free option. There is only the management of competing pressures. The EDCA bases will continue to be built up. American military presence in the region will continue to grow. And every time China moves 100 vessels across regional waters, that process accelerates. Because what those vessels do, more than anything else, is remind every government in the region that the question of what happens next is no longer hypothetical. It is a planning scenario. It is a contingency. In some offices in Manila, in Tokyo, in Washington, it is a timeline. The world has seen this pattern before, a rising power expanding its footprint, a status quo power reinforcing its alliances. Smaller nations caught between them trying to protect their sovereignty, their economy, and their people all at once. It rarely resolves cleanly. It rarely resolves quickly. And the countries that sit at the geographic crossroads of the competition are the ones that carry the heaviest burden. The Philippines did not choose to be located where it is, but it is where it is. And what happens in the Taiwan Strait will not stay in the Taiwan Strait. That is the story. That is why it matters. And that is why whatever happens next between Beijing and Taipei, Manila will be part of the conversation, whether it wants to be or not. So here's the question for you watching this. Do you think the Philippines should stand firmly with its American allies in a Taiwan conflict scenario, or should Manila pursue a policy of strict neutrality? Let us know in the comments. This debate is happening at the highest levels of government right now. Your voice is part of it.